The news that you announced last week from Swift, the Swift project, in the Cortez Trend, the operator of the project right now is Barrick, essentially, and they drilled hole 6 at Swift, and they intercepted 2.7 meters, grading 7 grams per ton gold. That includes 1.1 meters of 10.4 grams per ton gold. This is a good high grade gold hit. It was at 670 meters downhole, so it is deep, but the target is deep, and that's the important context. And can you tell us, like, they didn't really hit the target rocks in this hole, right, Chad?
Yeah, there's kind of a few kind of really important takeaways from it. First part would be that, this is still very early days in the exploration at Swift, and, we'd hit very big wide intercepts of low grade in the past, but no one had ever drilled a high grade intercept. And so the big kind of question mark for the project, including Nevada Gold Mines, was, can Swift even host an potentially economic hit? And this hole answered that question, right? It's deep, and we'd want to see a thicker intercept, from an economic standpoint for, trying to build tons on an actual real bona fide discovery. But, just for, very simply, this is an incredibly material drill intercept because we now know that Swift can host the same potentially economic grades as the other operating mines in the Cortez district that all also happen to be owned by Nevada Gold Mines. So that was kind of like the first really important piece that I wanted people to understand is there's lots more potential here, and now we know that it can be high enough grade. And then the other thing is that this hole number 1, essentially half the host rock ended up getting faulted off that we didn't anticipate. So there was a massive thrust fault called the Mill Creek thrust that propagates across the entire kind of half of the project, and all the mineralization is typically above or on the hanging wall side, as they call it if you're a geologist, of that thrust. So we lost half of our prospective host rock with that first hole and still managed to hit a pretty meaningful drill intercept. So the next step is where we're drilling now is about 1 kilometer away, but it is firmly in a spot where we know that rock isn't faulted off, and also had a nearby gold hit from a 2022 drill hole. So that's hoping we're testing the exact same concept as essentially what we drilled in 6, but hole 7 should have most of that host rock preserved, and so it increases our chances of drilling and higher grade intercept in that area as well. So yeah, it's looking good. We're excited.
Yeah, so hole 7 is targeted near hole 3 was drilled, but you're gonna target that area of the host rocks, the slope, Fassie's Limestone, the Roberts Mountain formation. You're gonna target that from another angle, right?
Yeah. Yep. And, so we have quite a few hit points on that Mill Creek thrust now. And every time that NGM drills a hole, they do a televiewer survey, which is essentially an optical survey where they put a big camera down the hole, and it actually takes like super high resolution photos and structural measurements of all sides of the drill hole. What that allows it to do is you can actually, when we know we've hit that Mill Creek thrust, it'll actually, the crews that take that survey, they can look at it and say, this is the exact angle that fault is dipping. This is the exact angle that fault's plunging. And when you take 4 or 5 intercepts over kilometers of drill spacing, you all have those, the orientations of that thrust on each of those holes, starts to give you a lot of confidence to project that out into areas where you maybe didn't know or have any data, but you felt was prospective for gold mineralization. And then that's what we're doing with hole 7 now, is we're taking all that data, projecting it over to where hole 7 is being drilled and going, okay, this looks like a great spot for there to be all the right things together, right? You got the right fault, the right rocks, and a previous anchor hit in hole 3 that tells you that it's mineralized in the area. So every time we drill a hole, I think we're dramatically increasing our odds of drilling more high grade hits. It's just we're learning more with every hole we drill. So
why are the limestones such a important target rock for you at Swift?
Well, so Carlin type deposits are very specific, right? So when you're thinking of like a vein, when you have a vein system, right? Really, all you're looking for, the most important thing is actually that you have rock that can fracture, right? And so you create a vein, right? And so it can be a rhyolite, it could be a volcanic, it could be any number of rocks that can make a good host for a high grade vein system. When you're talking about a Carlin type system, it has a lot more to do with the chemistry of those host rocks. And so you have these low temperature fluids that form Carlin type deposits. And so they're low temperature and they're highly acidic. And so what does acid do when it hits calcium? It fizzes. So that's the same thing that happens underground is you get these highly reactive limestones. They react with these acidic Carlin type fluids in a way that is just, it's perfect for the formation of these big gold deposits. And so you actually have the fluids come in and they melt away, if you want to think of it that way. They melt away parts of these limestones and they create porosity and permeability by dissolving pore space, and it creates permeability. So then as you have multiple pulses of fluids, every time it comes in and it enriches that deposit until you end up with a high grade gold system, right? And so without those limestones, the Carlin type fluids would not mineralize like a rhyolite or a volcanic or any other types of rocks. It just, you wouldn't end up with a gold system. But because you have the limestones, it's highly reactive and just works perfectly.
So in theory, the limestone is deeper, so it's closer to the source, so it could hold more gold, right?
Well, it tends to, from all the indications we're getting, you see it at Fourmile, which is a major deep discovery in the Cortez district. Pretty much everywhere you're going in Nevada, what you're seeing as you go deeper, it's not 100% all the time, but typically as you go deeper, you're getting higher grade gold. And it's a function of a lot of different things, temperature, pressure, the types of rocks you're in. But yeah, as you head closer to the intrusive sources that we believe are sourcing these Carlin type systems, you're seeing a lot of times maybe a lot tighter mineralization, but you're also seeing much higher grades. So that seems to be holding true at Swift as well.
So your partner at Swift is currently on hole 7 right now. It's supposed to be a 3-hole program. You know, they also have to spend quite a bit more cash to earn in their interest in this project by, I believe it's the end of 2026, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a $20 million initial earn-in, with December 31st of 2026 being the cutoff date or for them to actually hit that spend. I'm projecting that based on what they're going to spend this year, they're probably going to have to spend $11.5 million more in 2025 and 2026 just to hit their minimum earn-in amount. So, for us, it's a good scenario, right? We've got a meaningful drill hole, gives us an anchor point on something that actually matters as far as grade and scale. And what they need to do now is they need to spend a lot of money on this project just to hit their minimum earn-in, which means we're going to have lots of news flow over the next couple of years.
How much is a hole like this? Like you go to 1,000 meters depth. Is that like a $500,000 hole?
More like $1 million Canadian. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
roughly 700,000, US. It's pretty crazy how much these things cost, which is why we did the deal in the first place, right? Like I don't have there's very few shareholders in our registry that would be very supportive of us drilling,
$1 million holes?
$1 million holes right now, right? So,
you can have a house on the beach in Florida, or you can drill one hole in the Cortez Trend. Which do you want?
Oh, I want the hole in the Cortez Trend.
As long as Barrick is paying for it. Oh, that's too funny. Okay, so yeah, they've got to spend a lot more here at Swift. And for people who don't get 10 grams over 1 meter and what that means, what is the size of the prize here? Like, why are they spending so much to test this target?
Well, that's how these things kind of start, right? It's like very rarely just discoveries just, they go, the first couple drill holes, you hit a world class drill intercept, right? And you're like, oh, good, I have a gold discovery, great. These things take a lot of drilling to make these kind of discoveries, and they're chasing. I mean, almost every mine in the Cortez district is 10 million ounces or more, right? And, the Pipeline mine is 23 million ounces. And, I think that's the biggest in the district. But I mean, Pipeline's the closest mine to our project. It's only 5.5 kilometers away from the edge of our boundary. So yeah, that's what we're going after. We're not chasing small 1-2 million ounce things. We could be, if this pans out the way we hope, we're going after, 10 plus million ounces. And certainly we're not going to get there if the holes keep on returning a meter of 10 grams, right? But we've already drilled up to 50 meters, a half a gram, which shows, all right, that's like a 15-story building of continuous gold, albeit low grade. Well, at some point we're going to get, with all this, what we're learning with each hole, they're going to vector into a point where they hopefully hit, 40 meters of, 8 or 9 grams or 10 grams, right? And when they do that, that's when you start talking, okay, how big could this be? It could very easily be a 10 million plus ounce deposit, right? So obviously that's very forward looking for everyone listening here. But, when you ask, what are we looking for? That's kind of the scale.
And I think it's also important to know that Barrick put this in their latest presentation for their Q3 results. There's a lot of background noise, Chad.
Sorry.
If you're, yeah.
Yeah, I threw a towel on the floor. I got a very cluttered hotel room here, so.
So they put Swift on slide 10 in their latest deck and highlighted it. They featured it.
Yep.
So that tells me they're going to spend that 20 million, and there's, basically no doubt that they're going, all the way there for that first 20 million, and then probably they'll go all the way to the 30 million. But let's get to the 20 million first. And there's going to be a lot of drilling to get there. So even though hole 7 is being drilled and then they'll drill hole 8, then they'll take some time off for the winter, they'll be back, at Swift. They're not going away. So there's a lot of shots on goal here, and that's what I like. And there's no shortage of targets here. I mean, this is a very big structure.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, you look at when you take our property boundary, it's 75 square kilometers. So if you were to drape our property boundary over the main heart of the Cortez Trend, you would be able to comfortably fit the Cortez mine, the Fourmile deposit, and the Goldrush deposit all within the footprint of our project, right? So that combined just right there is about 35 million ounces, right? So I think when they look at Swift, they're not just looking at a single discovery. There's potential for, our project, if there is success there's multiple targets, and you could have multiple deposits scattered around the project, just like you see in other parts of the trend. So yeah, it's, I would highlight it in the, in their Q3 report. And I really like that, both Black Ridge and Swift, I can encourage anyone that is interested to take a look. Those are the only, they highlight our projects. That's the only 2 joint venture projects in all of Nevada that are not 100% owned by them, right? But they're still putting it in their slides. So starting to show that both projects are becoming more material to NGM's kind of long-term outlook at exploration in Nevada, and that's good for us.
So with hole 7, they did, like an RC collar on it, and then they bring in the diamond drill rig to go all the way to the target depth. How long do you think that hole will take to get drilled? And then how long do you think before we hear something about it?
Oh man, it can take easily like 6 weeks just to drill the hole. Like that's how extensive and deep these things are. I'd expect by the time they get it drilled, logged, cut, off to the lab, we're going to start seeing assays trickle back in late December into early January, so hopefully I'll be able to get at least, the first hole out, sometime in second hole out in January, right? So it shows you how slow news flow can be when you're having to wait, 6 to 8 weeks, just to see a hole drilled, let alone assays come back. So.
We're a little short on time here because Chad is at a conference and he has another engagement in 15 minutes. But if somebody has a question for Chad Peters. Go ahead and ask to speak, and I'll activate your mic. So tell us about the other projects. Like, what's next?
Yeah, well, the other project, which one are you referring to? Because we got a lot of other projects.
Whichever one you want to talk about, my friend.
Well, we got, when I get back next week, I'll be putting out some disclosure on this Selena project. We've started an MT survey there. And that's going to be chasing or targeting deep sulfides at our Chinchilla sulfide target, which is a high-grade CRD deposit, which we consider as an analog to like the Taylor deposit in Arizona. And as you probably saw, South 32 actually invested, $29 million into American Eagle Gold today. So they're really getting aggressive with both investments, project level deals. We're going to be seeing Selena drilled next year. So the cool thing is between our three projects, at Selena, Black Ridge, and Swift, we're probably going to see, I'm pretty confident we're going to see drill programs at all three of those projects, starting in the spring of next year and running all the way through the summer. So we have a lot of stuff lined up that is, costs nothing for Ridgeline and its shareholders to be a part of. And then on top of that, we, have our Big Blue project, which we're hoping to drill in, the first quarter of this year.
Big Blue Q1 2025. How big do you think that program is going to be at this point?
I think I'd like to see at least like a maiden just start 3 holes directly into the heart of the target. And I'd like to have extra cash set aside to follow up on those holes if they're successful. But 3 holes directly into that chargeability high and the structural corridor that's feeding the historic mine would be a really good first step to just seeing what's down there. It's never been a drill hole on that target. So, that'd be probably the first pass, and then we can grow from there if we have success.
Okay. So going to the skarn target first and then trying to, test it to depth.
Yep. Yeah, we know. I mean, for those who aren't familiar with the project, we've had up to, 15% copper in rock chips. It's a historic mine that produced at an average grade of 6.2% copper in the early 1900s and then got forgotten about for over 100 years. So, the reason we're going after the shallow stuff is we believe that we can drill some really nice high grade, copper intercepts directly beneath the skarn deposit and then follow that, kind of drill offensive holes with essentially the vertical hole would pretty much swing down and target the porphyry at depth. That's about 400 meters down.
Okay. So the Ohio target may or may not be tested in the first program.
Yeah, I'd say the only reason Ohio has incredible potential and the chargeability high is comparable to what we see beneath the Delker mine. The difference being is Ohio is roughly 650 meters. And so we'd like to kind of drill a proof of concept program at Delker. If there is a mineralized porphyry at depth at the Delker mine, that gives us a lot of confidence to then do a follow-up program on the deeper stuff at Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So what would be a validation hole for you in the first program? Like if you hit a hole with this, width at this grade, then it's time to go all in.
Right. Well, I mean, if we drill the vertical hole targeting the porphyry, if we were able to intersect 100 to 200 meters of porphyry, porphyry host rock, if there was anomalous copper, that'd be a great first step, right? Because we have multiple porphyry targets on the project. Maybe just that drill hole didn't hit the heart of it, right? So can we use that to vector, are we in the Phyllis zone and need to vector west towards Ohio, right? That would help answer a lot of questions. Is that a knock out of the park success? That wouldn't be no, but it would be an interesting, first step. Hopefully we hit something more like, 150, 200 meters of 0.5% or greater copper. That would be like an amazing success in a first pass program, right? So that, in my, wildest dreams, that's what I'd like to see. But realistically, a good porphyry alteration and mineralization with a vector towards where the high grade zone may be would be a great first step.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then going back to Swift. So final question. When Barrick made the Gold Rush, discovery in 2011, what hole was that on in the program there? Was that like hole 10, hole 20?
Well, that's a good question. So for Goldrush, it's a little trickier to give that exact response because, to be honest, Goldrush was discovered by Placer Dome in the 1990s. So Placer Dome drilled some great like 200 gram meter intercepts in like the 1990s, but it was 600 meters down, right? Back in the 1990s, that was too damn deep. They didn't have the roaster infrastructure to go after deeper sulfides like that. And so it kind of just got put on the back burner. And then it took until the mid 2000s for Barrick to actually come back and follow up on those holes. And that led to Goldrush. Now, a better analog, or at least a more recent one, is actually Fourmile, which is the extension of Goldrush, but even deeper. That took 11 holes for the initial discovery to get made in 2015 and 2016. And the first 10 holes drilled smoke, some alterations, some local high grade, but didn't really hit anything huge. And it wasn't until hole 11 that they hit 5.8 meters of 49.7 grams. And that's what led to it taking off. And I think that was around 1,000 or 1,300 meters down. Like Fourmile is an incredibly deep deposit. I think it's the deepest deposit in Nevada, right? And so they're able to, even at 1,000 plus meters down, that's still considered economic. So, when we're hitting stuff at 700 meters, it's still well within striking distance for the big guys to go after. And we just need to, we're only on hole 6. But if, by the time we're at hole 11, 12, I hope we have a couple pretty significant intercepts under our belt, and, maybe it's advancing into a pretty significant discovery.
Hey, Alan, go ahead and ask a question to Chad.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking the call, Chad. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks.
As I've been watching Ridgeline, it kind of seems to be morphing into a prospect generator. One of the great managers or leaders that used that effectively was Andre Gouman. And if memory serves me correctly, Andre is a shareholder of Ridgeline. One of the things that led to his great success was when he had a project that nobody wanted to auction, and he went out and found a big discovery, and that led to a takeover of his company, Virginia. I'm wondering if you could address that topic I just brought up, and in the sense of, is that your business plan, and of the projects, which one is one you're focusing on with your own money?
Right. No, that's a really good observation. I mean, we started out as just a straight, drill and kill, own all of our projects 100%, fund them 100%. And I think that was somewhat of a naive view, given the early stage projects we were trying to advance, right? Like, this wasn't something where I was picking up 1 million trying to turn it into 1.5 million ounces, right? Like, we were doing true grassroots exploration. And so over the last couple of years, we've kind of realized we need to be partnering on some of these deep, high risk projects, which is why we brought in our partners. I wouldn't say that I don't ever want to be pegged as a pure prospect generator. And the reason is we always have 1 or 2 projects that we're advancing on our own, 100%. And so we always want shareholders to see that opportunity where, yes, you have some of the downside protected by, these big groups that are spending a ton of money on Ridgeline's projects, but we also want to have, hopefully, what Andre was able to do, right? Like a material discovery that we're able to advance on our own. And so in our case, our Big Blue project is currently our Virginia shot that we're taking, right? We think we can advance that 100%. It's got great potential. Drilling under a historic high grade mine. It's got a lot of things going for it that maybe some of our early super conceptual programs like Swift or Blackridge, right? Those were true, just pure grassroots plays. This one's got a little more, kind of, I guess you could say, information on it. And so we're willing to take that shot with Big Blue. And, if we do a first pass program and it's interesting, but, maybe it's not a knockout success, and we kind of realize, oh man, this is going to take another 10 or $15 million to flesh out, that's where we sometimes consider, well, okay, maybe it's best to bring a partner in at this stage, right? While there's still interest. But yeah, we're always looking for that Virginia Gold Mines kind of aha moment, right? Can we make a big discovery that we own 100% of and really see the stock take off?
Well, other similarities are that Virginia was focused in a very mining-friendly jurisdiction of Quebec.
Yep.
Andre was a mass consumer of geological data, but he never had these majors investing in his projects like you. So I think that's pretty impressive that, and a reflection of the quality of the work that you guys do, that you've been able to bring in major mining companies. And as you guys were mentioning earlier, they're putting it in their decks when they're pitching their deal.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I think maybe something that maybe sets us apart a little bit, and it wasn't done by design. It was just because I'm an exploration geo and I want to make discoveries, is every one of our projects, we always do a first pass program. We don't stake or acquire a project unless we think it can host a discovery. And the initial goal with every one of them is it's going to be a ridgeline discovery that gets made. So I think maybe the difference with that is a lot of prospect generators, they pick up ground on conceptual ideas or, hey, this is on trend of a mine. And they don't really do any work to actually advance that project, right? They just say, hey, here's a low cost opportunity. Take a shot at it and I want a royalty. And sure, that works and it has worked a lot in the past, but what we do is we do all the background geology. We do all the work. We drill the holes that we would want to see drilled to answer key questions about the project. And, in the case of Selena, we actually did make a significant discovery there. It's just, we did it in a bear market and just couldn't get the market on side of that project, right? I mean, we were drilling, I think our best intercept was 32 meters of 300 grams silver equivalent. And we just could not get folks excited, but it was enough to get South 32 excited. And so that's what brought them in on the Selena project. So, we're really proud of the fact that we've been able to bring in such quality partners to the projects, and they got deep pockets and they believe in the story. So we're just kind of waiting on that big drill hole at Swift or Selena or any one of these projects. And I think it could really take off for us.
Chad, thank you so much. Thanks, Alan, for the comments and question. Have a great time in Zurich and Big Blue Q1 2025 and Swift hole number 7, lucky 7. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and this will be up on Goldfinger Capital very soon. Cheers.
Thanks, Rob.